Greetings, my fellow free-blooded solid thinkers. This is LL3's News Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangroves of South Florida. And today's date, Saturday, August 26, 2017. Yes, it looks like Harvey made some impact along Rockport, the center of the eye, hit that area, and now it became a Category 1 hurricane, or 2 is pretty strange. Category 1. And maybe catastrophic flooding will be the issue. So, you just wish those brothers and sisters out there the best, because it's one thing for sure in that facility, people don't realize it was when it became it was the first expected to be a Category 3, then it went to a 4. And as I recall, the whole Charlie did the same thing. Went from like a 2 and like a few hours later to a 4. And went slammed right through Punta Gorda, Fort Myers area. The fact is this, the Gulf of Mexico, the water itself is warmer than the Atlantic Ocean, so you have to expect more heat and impact. But it's a real shame what occurred, so hope for the best. If you could take the initiative on donate your time and so forth, or send supplies, that would be fantastic. Or to be going for bulk stuff. Texas, that area of Texas will rebuild. One thing about these hurricanes, it will inspire others that, hey, we're just ants on a big anthill. So always got to respect Mother Nature at its finest. So wish them the best on that. And hey, one thing I tell people about FEMA, they sound really dandy, but even the fine print is not as lovely, because you get something from them, your programs, they expect you to pay it back, and they go, oh my goodness, they didn't tell me that. So, and we do remember as well what happened in New Orleans when they took the farms away from the people in the outer rim, which I still call it treasonous. And two good examples was the mayor, Raymond Nagin, at that time, which he's in prison for something else, for kickbacks, and Police Chief Riley, former Police Chief Riley. They could be in that category as treason, as far as I'm concerned. They're just two of the examples. The other participants too as well. And many of the soldiers now have addressed it. They said, no, what I did was wrong. At least they had the courage to say that. But, and of course, due to the drama, they're going to probably blame it on President Trump. He didn't respond good enough. I go, wait a minute. That's Acidon, don't even waste your breath, my friends. So wish for them the best on that. And sometimes, I won't say any social media sides to a person. I threw like a Newsbud video in there with like a claim about Young Turks getting money from some higher ups, possibly George Soros, or claim on this network. And person said, don't send this garbage. He sent me this fact check media bias site. And I've looked at it, and Newsbuzz was considered a conspiracy pseudo-science under the category. So there's a lot interesting here above top secret, activist posts. Funny about activist posts, because they do mix things. It's more like an open platform. So I always tell folks, you have to observe responsibly, and they got blacklisted news on there. A friend of Facebook pen pal of mine, Doug Owens, he mixes stuff up from other news sources. So he has his viewpoints, which is fine. That's why I always tell people, even on my Spreaker page, like, always observe responsibly. That's what I did. Always, if I post something like that, always observe responsibly and have your intake. You don't have to really go, hey, sometimes I can throw a monkey wrench in there, just let the people think, not to say, hey, this is real, and that's totally irrelevant. It has collectivist evolution in there and counter Popra. Yeah, counter Popra. I believe that's that dude from H.A. Goodman. So H.A. Goodman's moderate, conspiracy level moderate, pursuit level low. Okay, that's cool. Mixed. He has mixed factual reporting. I won't call him quackery, but he has some very good points as well. But he called himself a conspiracy pseudo-science. See, the problem is, what I'm looking at right now is I try to put them all in these conspiracy pseudo-science category because there's a lot of questions are in the air. And so a lot of these folks are like, they're putting a lot of things in here, questioning. And there's nothing wrong with that. Look, if it says it in the mainstream news, or maybe Young Turks say Young Turks' research is great and Black Lives Matter says their research is superb, they have a lot of merit. You gotta scratch your head as well. It's not this whole left-right paradigm and conspiracy theories and all that. You have to always look at things into a bigger picture. They say about factual reporting and the Free Thought Project was mixed. This is why I always tell everyone, once again, always observe responsibly. Of course, they call David like a nut job, tinfoil guy. And, yeah, even a Newsbuzz. This is right here. It's very interesting. And they go, and it says here about Newsbud, okay, under conspiracy pseudo-science. Sources in the conspiracy pseudo-science category may publish unverifiable information that is not always supported by evidence. These sources may be untrustworthy for credible, verifiable information. Therefore, fact-checking and further investigations recommended on per article basis when obtaining information from these sources, which I always believe in verifying too. So don't get me wrong. I'm not going to just go out and think like, oh yeah, they're absolutely right. That will be irrelevant. But based on historical facts and history and so forth, yeah, that's something you got to question because based on past practices. And even Newsbuzz does that. Some guy called, well, Kurt Nemo was a former writer from Infowars, this and that. But the whole thing is, he wanted his own news articles and look at the history as well, which out of fairness, it does make sense. All you got to do is read and look things up. They don't want critical thinkers. I guess that's the problem. So that's why you always go, like I said, everything has its pros and cons. I'm not going to crucify a site. You really gotta convince me. And it's interesting about this website, MediaBiasFactCheck.com. You always got to see here. It's like they claim Newsbuzz a right-wing conspiracy anti-government site founded by, among others, Kurt Nemo, former lead editor and writer for Infowars. What sets NB apart from other sites of this type is that the stories are, for the foremost, well written and contain numerous sources. The bias of the writing is also most suitable as such sites as Infowars, but just as prevalent, as both as an overtone to all stories, as well as sometimes questionable sources and or conclusions drawn from source material. Additionally, many of their sources are other NB stories, work the other author and editors have done elsewhere, which is good, which is true. Like I said, I'm not going to argue with that, but you have to always see things bigger. And of course, it has here, for example, the story titled "Pedophile Hester Case." Clinton scandals, FBI, and the COINTELPRO directed the author of Simple Edmonds claim that the cases against Hester had more to do with blackmail for hush money and government counterintelligence than the actual charges. Specifically, COINTELPRO, a purported FBI operation against selected public and political targets. There's an FBI operation in 1960s, COINTELPRO, run by J. Edgar Hoover, did in fact illegally target public and political figures. It was exposed and closed by Hoover in 1971. I could not find no reference to COINTELPRO 2, however, except on that right-wing conspiracy sites like Cato Institute as a source. as to the sources in the story of the 19 listed. 7 links are the author's own work. So, like I said, I'm just doing it on Newsbud because Mr. Person made this claim. Additional notes: many of the stories posted on NB offered a teaser trailer or lead in paragraphs with a reminder available only to members. While this was slight hindrance to evaluating NB, there were sufficient full stories and links and on truncated stories available to make a full evaluation. Good writing, conspicuous sources, and the lack of over-the-top hyperbole present on similar sites cannot, however, match the overall intent and the agenda NB and to earn them a rating of conspiracy. That's so by D. Kelly. It came out June 12, 2017. So, like I said, you have to. Everything has its pros and cons. All right. This is why even when I dressed up on Newsbuzz, you gotta see things a lot broader and take the time to do your research and go deeper. And you know what? Share it. That's one thing I do with these shows. I like to see people share information, and even they take the initiative. If someone said, "Hey, here's an error. Check this out." You know what? And they thank them for it. So it's more of a community effort, not just go to them only and it's face value. And they go, yeah, it's absolutely true. Because everything's human, okay? Journalism is run by human beings like society. So I can be very fair about this with Newsbuzz and these other sites. So that's why I always tell folks, always observe responsibly. As even if I post something on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, do that. See things more thoroughly, verify, and share. That's awesome. Sometimes some folks, they try to explain everything in a War and Peace format, which is a little bit too much. But I thank them anyway for taking the time to put it out there. That doesn't mean I'm going to believe them or not, but I got to take that motive and look at it. And you know what? Network. That's the main goal. So I'm not condemning people may get offended. I'm not going to call their names out and say they're idiots. To me, that's completely irrelevant and unprofessional. And I say that out of fidelity. So, all this is going on in the world. So, I'm gonna leave that footnote in there on the media bias fact check. I might have to look at it a little bit more. See where the source is pending, and you get donations. So everything has its pros and cons. Like even with this site as well. Everyone has their own views. All right, folks. I'm gonna start off here. Speaking of conspiracy theorists and pseudoscience, I'm gonna take the initiative on reading something from Newsbuzz.com that came out today by Sibel Edmonds. It's actually part 1. Agents of Terror on Government Payroll. Part 1, Anwar Al-Awlaki. So it will be the title, Agents of Terror on Government Payroll. And I like to say this here, mainstream media, 2 + 2 + 2 + 2 + more 2's = 0. And as it reads here, from quasi-investigative reports to legitimate leaks, whistleblowers, and numerous court documents, several key 9/11 operatives have been identified and confirmed as assets and or informants of the United States government. All details of these operative positions, functions, and employment records have been sealed and protected and beyond and above top secret classified. Further, despite the established facts and undeniable trial of evidentiary crumbs, the mainstream and pseudo-alternative tentacles of the establishment continue to downplay or plainly disregard these cases and parrot long ago debunked official narrative according to the themselves of the 2 + 2 + 2 = a solid 0. Whenever it is Anwar Al-Awlaki, a man who was born highly educated in the United States, who fought on the side against a competitor's interests, who was a regular figure at the Pentagon and the brass dinner companion, who was on the FBI's payroll and highly valued by the U.S. Congress or Ali Muhammad's employment with the United States Army's Green Beret and the CIA, and his connection with the FBI and or the landlord of 2 9/11 hijackers in San Diego, who happened to be high-value long-term FBI informant. Oh, wow. We find ourselves staring at black holes of incomplete profiles and missing crucial information. In each of these cases, we are dealing with the government engaged in an extraordinary level of secrecy, protection, and cover-up. And with every single case, we are faced with the crucial why question. While the case individually on its own paints extremely troubling with serious implications, we must delve into cases as whole in order to see larger theme and even more telling story. Putting these established cases together, documents in one place is a sound starting point towards needed answers. The truth on 9/11. Anwar Al-Awlaki, an established FBI informant and Pentagon insider. On October 4th, 2013, lawyers of Ali Al-Timi, a Virginia man and Muslim scholar, serving a life sentence for supporting jihad against the U.S., pushed to obtain more information from the federal government on evidence pertaining to the clerical Anwar Al-Awlaki's recruitment as a U.S. government informant over a decade ago. According to Al-Timi's defense lawyer, Jonathan Turley, recently released file, FBI suggests that Al-Awlaki had been acting as an asset for some government agency in response to Turley's request for this crucial evidence, with the government prosecutors insisted they had no obligation on the dealings with Al-Awlaki. Mr. Turley has no right to know whether the government has an asset into Al-Awlaki. At that time, Mr. Turley has no right to know if Mr. Al-Awlaki was an asset at that time. Oh, really? That's very interesting. So, how does that make any sense? Does it? Absolutely not. Leon Regima, the presiding U.S. District Judge on the case, has not been declined to grant motions filed by Al-Timi seeking more details on government's relationship with Al-Awlaki. Further, Regima suggested that part of the answer to these concerns is how they classify that she is the only person at the court who is allowed to see it. And that even a number of other personnel with top secret clearance were not allowed to see the documents pertaining to these concerns. Talking about secrecy, you can read Al-Timi's motion seeking evidence about Al-Awlaki here, and the government response here. You can see it for yourselves. All right. Even former FBI Director Robert Mueller did not deny the official working relationship between the Bureau and Al-Awlaki. Documents obtained by Judicial Watch after it filed a Freedom of Information Act request, and then see the FBI showed the FBI director was more deeply involved in the post-9/11 handling of Al-Awlaki, previously known. One memo from Mueller, then Attorney General John Ashcroft, on October 3rd, 2002, 7 days before the clerk re-entered the U.S. and was detained at JFK, is marked secret, entitled Anwar Al-Awlaki, UBL, Al-Qaeda. While the substance of the memo is redacted in full, with the FBI citing classified material, the memo is one of at least 3 reports whose primary subject is the clerk in the 9 days leading up to Al-Awlaki's sudden return to the U.S. in October 2002. Another FBI memo, also marked secret, on October 22nd, 2002, 12 days after the clerk's return, includes the subject line, Anwar Nasser Al-Awlaki, and synopsis asset reporting. It is not clear whether the term asset refers to the clerk or an individual. And one moment. Alright, one of those scammers. So I blocked the number. Pretty pathetic. And you know what? Before I proceed, I want to give the number right here. Okay? With this pathetic fool. 904-239-5324. Okay? That's somewhere near Jacksonville, I would say. So do me a favor, just tell them to stick it. All right, I'll continue on. You good? It says here. No, I'm good.
Yeah, we all know probably because they ordered because it's late.
3, 2.
Probably like 2:30.
Okay, cool. All right.
I just didn't want you to.
All right, cool. All right, so I might as well do this a little quick here then. While the substance of the memo is redacted in full with the FBI citing classified material, the memo is one of the least 3 reports whose primary subject is the cleric. The 9 days leading up to Al-Awlaki's sudden return to the U.S. in October 2002. Another FBI memo, also marked secret, on October 22nd, 12 days after the cleric's return, included the subject line, Anwar Al-Awlaki and synopsis asset reporting. It is not clear whether the term assets referred to the cleric or another individual. Why would Al-Awlaki get the attention of the FBI director, which would warrant for his arrest be pulled when he's trying to re-enter the country? Asked Judicial Watch President Tom Fenton. And I gotta say this, Judicial Watch has a lot of good merit too, so they're not a bunch of quagmires or quacks, okay? As he leaves the FBI after 12 years, 2 years beyond the traditional term, Director Robert Mueller did not dismiss the possibility in an interview with Fox News. I'm not personally familiar with any effort to recruit Anwar Al-Awlaki as an asset. This doesn't mean to say there was not an effort at the same level of the Bureau, FBI, or other agencies to do so, Mueller said. You can watch the video, it's like 2 minutes long. Al-Awlaki was born in the United States and raised in an affluent family with a highly educated father who was a Fulbright scholar. Al-Awlaki was born in the United States. His parents were from Yemen. His father did his graduate work at U.S. universities, receiving a doctorate at the University of Nebraska and later working at the University of Minnesota in 1975 to 77. He pursues higher education at prestigious U.S. universities as well. Al-Awlaki earned his B.S. in civil engineering from Colorado State University in 1994. He also studied at San Diego State University and worked for a doctorate degree in human resource development at George Washington University Graduate School of Education and Human Development in 2001. Strangely, despite his preacher, aka Imam positions, Al-Awlaki never received any formal Islamic education. In fact, that's what the other Islamic preachers have said about him. Some Muslim scholars said they don't understand Al-Awlaki's popularity because while he spoke fluent English and could therefore reach a non-Arabic speaking audience, he lacked formal Islamic training and study. Al-Awlaki's upbringing and higher education took place here in the United States. His family was not Islamic or radicalized. He never went to the madrasas or Islamic preaching schools, so was he really radicalized? From documented facts and the history seems, and he later assumed the role of a radical Islamist, he was playing that role. Now the things get more interesting. Al-Awlaki spent a summer of his college years training with the Afghan Mujahideen. Why this is interesting? Because the summer training took place somewhere between 1991 and 94. We're not talking about an era when the Mujahideen fought the Soviets. No, it is not in the 80s we're talking about. During this period, there were no Taliban guys. Taliban has not yet been formed. When Mujahideen in operation were the ones directed by Pakistan's ICI with foreign participants, mainly backed by Saudi Arabia. And there's all these links in here, just you can look for yourselves. Pakistan's military ruling establishment was opposed to new developments in neighboring Afghanistan. Afghanistan expert Nematullah Najim writes, these new political and military developments in Afghanistan forced the Pakistani intelligence agency ISI to organize a military plan with forces to belong to Hekmatar's Hafiz al-Islami. This militaristic plan aimed to capture Kabul was in the full force when the Western Mujahideen leaders in Pakistan agreed to the UN peace plan. On the eve of the successful implementations of the UN peace plan, and I see it's raining out there, I forgot my umbrella. Shoot. Alright, no big deal. Oof. Sorry about that. District's plan aimed to capture Kabul and was in full force when the rest of Mujahideen leaders of Pakistan agreed to the European peace plan. On the eve of the successful implementation of the UN peace plan in Afghanistan through the ISI, through Hekatum Matar and non-Afghan volunteers, led hundreds of trucks loaded with weapons and fighters to the southern part of Kabul. When we delve in further, we saw Al-Awlaki's main idea of interest. In 1994, Al-Awlaki began service as a part-time imam to the Denver Islamic Study, where he encouraged the Saudis to fight in Chechnya against the Russians. Let's see who else who have interest in that region that would be against the Russians' interest. Remember, we're talking about post-Soviet period here. So due to the relation between Al-Awlaki and the CIA Pentagon cannot be written off as one of those overused that was during the Afghan-Soviet War, when he aligned ourselves with one evil against another evil line. This is where was the era when he began competing with Russia over the resource-rich region. Chechens have been one of our main tools to sabotage Russia's interest in this region. So basically, Al-Awlaki was encouraging terror operations against our competitor and would make them someone who was savingly playing a radical Islamist role for our side. And special interest, in other words, we're talking Operation Gladio B. So what happens next? Based on documented background information, by 2001, Al-Awlaki had ties and relationships with the high-ranking FBI officials. In 2001, Al-Awlaki settled on the East Coast in the Washington metropolitan area, where he served as imam at the Dar al-Jah Mosque. This is where he led academic discussions and preaching frequent by FBI counter of intelligence for the Middle East, Gordon M. Snow. Al-Awlaki also sought after figures by the Pentagon. He even dined with top brass, and he was a chosen man on the Capitol Hill as well. An interesting claim here, right? This is the same man who, from very early during the 9/11 investigation, was tied in many ways to supposed 9/11 attacks. When police investigating the 9/11 tracks raided in Hamburg, Germany, apartment of Ramzi bin al-Bashir, they found the total telephone number of Al-Awlaki among bin al-Ali's personal contacts. One detective later told 9/11 Commission he believed Al-Awlaki was at the center of the 9/11 story, and an FBI agent said if anyone had knowledge of the plot, it would have been him, since someone who had to be in the U.S. and keep the hijackers spiritually focused. One of the common denominators among the FBI, CIA terrorist recruits, is a terrorist candidate, being easily blackmail-able. Recall one of the alleged line of the hijackers, Muhammad Atta, and the fantasy marketed by officials and their tentacles. In the media, the one thing all 9/11 hijackers shared was their adherence to the extreme side of Islam, aka fanatic Islamists. The real story of facts state otherwise. In Venice, Florida, Muhammad Atta lived for 2 months with an American stripper, lingerie model named Amanda Keller. I remember that too. There was a report on that. Okay, and it says here, Atta loved to party. He was out with Keller nearly every night they were together. He was heavy drinker, snorted coke, and was a stylish dresser and wore expensive jewelry. How is that Islamic? I knew about that for a very long time when they talk about the South Florida connection, okay? Atta Keller, a stripper named Linda, and 2 Germans, Peter and Johann, partied for 3 days in Key West. Atta paid for everything. Atta frequent Vegas casinos where he gambled, drank alcohol, and frequent strip clubs. Further, less than 1 week before 9/11 attacks, Atta and several other hijackers made a still unexplained visit aboard on one of James Ambrose casino boats. Al-Awlaki too possessed such blackmail-able qualities that made him a perfect candidate. He was being well surveilled by the FBI and probably the CIA. The pious Muslim preacher married with 3 children, frequent escorts, and frequented escorts and brothels, received blowjobs and kinky intercourse, and had an arrest record for propositioning hookers. propositioning hookers. In a Hollywood expose written by New York Post, The Secret Life of one of the county's most fearsome members, we get a better picture of Al-Awlaki's activities, making him a perfect recruit. Such solo drives had become routine for him through the settlings vary sometimes. It was motel in a cedar part of the city of Tonier lodging in sprawling Virginia suburbs. This time was at the Marriott Residence Inn on P Street toward the end of the holy month of Ramadan. In the Washington Post online chat a few weeks earlier, he explained that Muslims are abstained from sexual activity during Ramadan between sunrise and sunset. It was 2:30 p.m. when he made his way to room 1010, where a young woman from Texas awaited. He was a computer engineer born in India and now living in California, Al-Awlaki told her. He was polite and apologized for sneezing so much, explaining he was suffering from hay fever. He handed her over $220. She performed oral sex on him. After he finished very quickly, and asked her for another round, and the woman would later recount. But she was trying to raise the money. She wanted to go to college in Florida, and he had to pay another $220. He said he paid again only for full sexual intercourse. She declined and he went on his way. He went on his way. He was a busy man after all. In the months after 9/11, watchers of the SSG followed Al-Awlaki to assignations with prostitutes at the Wyndham Center, the Melrose, the Monarch Avenue Suite, the Swiss Hotel, and more. Agents will follow the women later the same day on the next day, asking about Alec's words and actions. He liked the lights on. The agents learned he found the escort service online and booked their services under his real name. Sometimes he asked for intercourse, sometimes oral sex, sometimes he just watched the woman stimulate herself while he masturbated. Just like any organized criminal network, the ultimate end of U.S. government snitches, rats, and assets who bear witness to government criminal operations, including terrorism, is either death by a hit job assassination, unexplained murder, or suicide. And this consistent pattern shows up in the case of Al-Awlaki. Death by drone assassination, orally, secretly, by the highly echeloned of a criminal government from the White House. A federal courthouse on Monday released a previous secret government memo outlining the legal justification for the 2011 killing of Anwar Al-Awlaki, a U.S. citizen accused Al-Qaeda operated in a drone strike in Yemen. The document was released under the order of the U.S. Courts of Appeals for the Second Circuit in New York and provides the most detailed explanation to date for the legal reasoning behind Al-Awlaki's killing. Its disclosure also happened a significant calculation by the Obama administration, which fought for years to keep the memo, as well as many other aspects of its targeted killing program, secret from public. We do not believe that Al-Awlaki's U.S. citizenship imposes constitutional limitations that would preclude the contemplated lethal action by the U.S. military or CIA, the memo concluded, clearing the way for a drone strike that could trigger intense legal and political debate. Newly reported release document indicated that both U.S. military and the CIA had assured the Justice Department that they intend to capture Al-Awlaki, but had made clear that was doing so would be infeasible at this time. While acknowledging that killing a U.S. citizen carries a risk of endless deprivation of a citizen's liberty in the absence of a sufficient process, the memo argued that those considerations are overwhelmed when the target poses a continued and imminent threat of violence or death to other Americans. What really warranted a covert assassination order and execution of Al-Awlaki, a U.S. citizen, directly by the president. As we all know, dead men can't talk. The drone assassination eliminated more one witness, a possible loose end with the potential of becoming a loudmouth. Yet this document limited witnesses, tireless investigative work of a few truth-seeking journalists live on and hopes to a legitimate truth movement that never gives up seeking the truth. So, of course, we're going to have a first annual 9/11 Activist Summit, Titans of Truth, on Sunday, September 10th. Join in and check it out. So it's interesting because this person here has so many flaws and he knows too much as well. So they can go, yeah, he's a sucker. We can use him. Look at all the stuff he did. We'll just say he's a Muslim, but if he screws around, we can get him one way or the other. So everyone went up in arms when they did a drone strike on Anwar Al-Awlaki, and I say, hey, he's a U.S. citizen. How come he wasn't captured and get through the process? I'm like, oh, he's a terrorist. Obama did the right thing. Spared me the moment. So this is how they do things, my friend. That's what the war on terror is all about. It's war with ourselves. If you let this thing go, you create a president that can do it to everyone else in our own nation. So you can say whatever on about Emmons. The whole thing is, do your research. A lot of questions about his death, and everyone should know what was really happening. Just to let you folks know, this actual article, if I'm correct, it is member content, if I presume. I believe so. So yeah, check it out, and make your own judgments, do your own research as well. Always observe responsibly, okay? Alright. Well, that is it. It's gotta be one of those days. That's all good. I'd like everyone for listening, plus feel free to download and share it throughout the social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or you want to send me something that's interesting and I want to check out, whatever you do, please address this correspondence with decorum. Keep me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Breaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Streams Network, Scene.lifeminds.com, FutureNet.club, or Patreon.com/LokiLuck3 if you want to share, be a donor, and all that good stuff, all right? Okay. In addition, you can email me at LokiLuck3@gmail.com or LokiLuck03@protonmail.com. Alright, my friends, that's all for now, but always remember that demonic resistance is something for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.